Now, throughout my remarks, you'll see me drop pieces of paper on the floor. Don't worry about it. I meant to do that. If I say oops, then one of you is going to get asked to help me pick up a piece of paper. But real quick, before I go into the heart of my comments, I need a little help from the audience. I was doing this thing with my girls. We have two girls, Isabel and Sammy. They're 8 and 6. Adorable. Now, I'm a little biased on that, but if you met them, I think you'd agree. And we're talking a lot about gratitude, trying to be appreciative of what we have. And having grown up in California, I'm a big 49ers fan, which I get it, Houston, Texans, my condolences. But Coach Harbaugh did this thing when he grew up. His father would say, "Who's got it better than we do?" And the boys would answer, "Nobody." And that was their way of, whatever their circumstance, reminding themselves how good they had it. And so I thought, Isabel and Sam are going to love this. This is going to be a new Taylor tradition. So I walked through it with them, made sure they were nodding, they got it. So I said, "Okay, girls, are you ready?" "Yeah." "Who's got it better than we do?" And at the same time, they both yelled, "Everybody." So, you know, message sent is not always message received. So I figured, let's try it out here. I'll see if maybe I haven't lost my touch or gotten it back. So, let me ask all of you here today, as Coach Harbaugh would do, or as his father would do with him, who's got it better than we do? Look, that was 50-50, and I'm going to take that on a pass-fail, and I'm going to say pass. Thank you for having me here. It was a much longer road to get here than I originally had anticipated. I was supposed to be here last year. Surgery kept me from that opportunity, and I can assure you, I would have much rather been here with you than in a hospital bed. But I'm on the mend, doing much better, and grateful to be able to be here with you today. It's not at all lost on me who it is I'm speaking to and with. You know, the patients, the parents, social workers, the physicians. Essentially, I'm addressing the salt of the earth. And I get that. Now, our partnership, and I'll use the word our, because I too am a proud member of this group, is built on what I consider to be a sacred trust. We rely on one another. We rely on one another to maintain our health, to provide support, and frankly, to also provide some inspiration from time to time. And so it is again that I'll say, it really is an honor to be here with you. Now, something else that isn't lost on me is the fact that you guys like to kick things off early. David said, "Yeah, we're going to have the van pick you up at 7:15 in the morning." And I thought, seriously? It's not sleeping in time, is it? But if the early bird gets the worm, we should all be well fed today. Now, the fact is that my story, I guess, technically begins in the hospital at Santa Rosa Memorial in California. But I like to think that my tale really began 7 years after that in a different hospital. And to think it sort of started with a gallon of milk. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. When I was growing up, we had kind of a rule that nobody in the Taylor household was lazy. So we all had to do our part, even if you were little. And part of that meant when Mom went to the store, all the kids had to help carry things in. Now there's 3 kids in my family, Martha, Kathy, and myself. I'm the youngest, and while they would say I was spoiled as the youngest and the only boy, I would say they're jealous. I prefer to think I was just well loved. But Martha would pick up the bulky items, Kathy grabbed the milk, and I grabbed the bread, because I'm no dummy. The bread's light. And on our way in, Kathy dropped the milk. And my mom said, be more careful. Checked the container, gave it back to her, and she dropped it again. Now, the rest of us went about our day. We didn't think anything about it. But for my mom, there was little else she could think about. See, she started piecing together little things like that. How Kathy had difficulty carrying a gallon of milk. How she got tired going up and down a flight of stairs. How she couldn't quite keep up with her friends. Things that were very minor, but that a mother notices. And as you know, mom's always right. So despite my father saying, don't worry, dear, everything's fine, she said, we're going to the doctor. Another rule in the Taylor household was, one kid goes to the doctor, everybody goes to the doctor. So you can imagine how thrilled Martha and I were to be included in that fun outing. I remember going, I remember having the physical examination, I remember having my blood drawn, which I was not happy about. And then we waited. A little bit of time passed. The phone rang. Lab results came in. Turned out that Kathy and I had high levels of CPK in our blood, which at the time we're like, what's CPK? I don't know what that is. All we knew was it wasn't too good to have a lot of it, because Kathy and I then ended up having to have muscle biopsies. And so if you've never experienced the joy of going to the hospital, then having to have a surgery or muscle biopsy, let me just tell you real quick what you're missing on your voyage from the hospital room to the operating room. First, they put you on a gurney, which you'd think they could afford to make more comfortable. I mean, seriously, where do our healthcare dollars go, people? Now that you're uncomfortable, they throw off your visual perspective by forcing you to lay down while they wheel you through a labyrinth-like series of the world's brightest corridors. You know your trip is concluded once you feel cold, frigid air envelop your nearly naked body. Those gowns are not thick. And you're wheeled into an even brighter room, which who knew that was even possible. It's bustling with people, all of whom are wearing surgical masks and carrying sharp instruments. What's not to love? I was greeted there by an anesthesiologist, and I remember thinking, this is a cool guy, not just because he had teddy bears on his mask and on his hat, but because he just seemed very kind. And he had a nice forehead, so, you know, what's not to like? He asked me a couple questions, told me he'd be there with me the whole time, and then jabbed me with an IV needle. And I decided we could no longer be friends. Hours later, we went home. It was same day, and just tried to recover. And as kids do, you kind of tend to forget that it's not over, that you're actually waiting for lab results. We lived about 5 hours away from San Francisco at the time, and so as weeks went by, the results weren't such that the doctor could just call and say, hey, swing on by the office and let's talk. And so they were just delivered over the phone. And I can still remember watching my mom take that call. And I didn't know who it was on the other end of the line, but I knew it was bad because I could see the blood drain from her face. And she was being told that Kathy had muscular dystrophy. And I think she, you know, as shocking as it was, she understood. I think she had a reasonable expectation that something was going to come back, that there was not, Kathy wasn't in full health. But then they went on to say that I had muscular dystrophy too. And that was a complete shock. Because at that point, I was a kid who loved to run and jump and play, and I'd climb anything that I could catch. And she didn't say anything. She hung up the phone, walked into the other room, and came back with a pie. And the reason why she came back with a pie is because it was Thanksgiving Day that news came in. Armed with the diagnosis, but unsure as to really what it meant, we loaded in the car, made the trek to San Francisco so we could see a specialist. And I think there was an expectation that we were going to see somebody that was going to provide us with the answers we desperately wanted. And what we got was something different. I remember going in, and you know, the office, the decor, it's all still there in the memory banks. But what stands out the most is what the doctor said that day. He looked at me and said very plainly, "You're going to weaken. You're going to grow tired. You're going to start tripping a lot and falling a lot. And eventually you'll be in a wheelchair." And then he looked at my mom and said, "Mrs. Taylor, your son will depend on you for care for the rest of his life. He won't graduate high school. College will be an impossibility. So for your own emotional well-being and his, don't expect much from him." I was 7 years old at the time. When I think about what that doctor said to me, it makes me want to choke him out with his own stethoscope. He was an authority figure. He was somebody we could supposedly look to for counsel, for advice. But his words on that day violated that trust and left us hurt and upset. Now, one of the outcomes of that experience was that my mother committed herself to ensuring that I would never be put in such a situation again. She wasn't going to allow me to be so vulnerable in front of a doctor. She would, from that point forward, play the role of defender or guardian and place herself between me and my medical providers. After that visit, she did sit us down. She told me with bold determination, my doctor didn't know what he was talking about. Yes, I would end up using a wheelchair, but that wasn't going to stop me from excelling in life. I would graduate, I would go to college, and I would find success in all aspects of my life. And that wasn't a question, it was a statement, and more than that, it was a requirement. And it was that expectation that changed my perspective on my diagnosis and on the path that I was headed on. It's a lot for a 7-year-old to take in, but you'd be surprised how much you understand at that age when you're forced to do so. Now, by earning a bachelor's, then going on and getting a master's, becoming a husband, a father, and achieving a certain level of professional success, I like to think I proved two things. One, my doctor was a bonehead. And two, the human spirit's indomitable. And I'll tell you, muscular dystrophy's made my journey harder, but it hasn't impeded or stopped me from progressing or achieving my dreams or goals. Following my diagnosis, my body turned on me. Keeping my balance became difficult. Suddenly, I found myself tiring out after short distances. Then while I was getting weaker and weaker, my friends were getting stronger and stronger. So keeping up on the playground became a real challenge. Now, in the past, I had always done whatever I wanted to do. I wanted to go play on the swings, I played on the swings. But at that point, I had to start trying to figure out and understand what my body would allow me to do. And because of the nature of my disease and the continued deterioration of my muscles, those goalposts kept moving. So what I could do one month, I maybe couldn't do the next, or certainly a year thereafter. I began falling a lot, to the point that walking became hazardous to my health. I mean, you can only hit the pavement so many times before the pavement wins. By the time I was in the 6th grade, I started using a motorized scooter. At that point, I had been stitched up more than a rag doll. I had stitches 4 times on my bottom lip, twice on my upper lip, once on my eyebrow, once under my chin, and multiple other times. So basically, I was putting my pediatrician's kids through college. Searching for answers and displeased with the care that we had received to date, my mother reached out, was able to contact the Muscular Dystrophy Association, which ironically, she had seen the telethon and actually contributed to it in the past, thinking, you know, how horrible that any parent would have a sick child. And of course, the irony there, not knowing that she was donating to her own kids, but they led us to a great clinic at UCSF, led by Dr. Robert Miller, who's an extraordinary neurologist and an even better person. And the approach was altogether different. He shook my hand firmly. He said, "Hello there, young man." And I remember liking the guy instantly. He was hard not to like. And from that time forward, I felt like I was one person living 2 lives. Let me explain what I mean by that. On the one hand, I had my medical life, which included the realities of life with a neuromuscular disease. Associated with that were countless visits to clinics and the loss of physical ability that continued to be something I had to deal with. I remember in 8th grade, at night, I would go to bed by use the restroom, and then afterwards I'd walk down the hall into my bedroom. And by I'd walk, what I mean is I would put my arms out. My mom or my eldest sister would hold on to them to help support me and provide me with balance. And then I'd kind of hobble my way or make my way down the hall. But technically I was walking. Until one night when I got to my doorway and just stopped. And it was the oddest thing, because I wasn't tired, but my legs, just my legs, felt exhausted. And I told my mom, I can't. And I didn't have to explain, she knew. Somehow she understood. And I said, "Mom, I just, you know, I don't know, I don't understand, I can't move my legs." My sister overheard in the other room and came hustling over. And together they began encouraging me. "Come on, Vance, one more step. Take one more step and then we'll do the rest." Trying as hard as I could, I tried to defy my own body. And I went to take a step, and instead of moving forward, my leg buckled. And I braced myself for impact as I headed to the ground. But instead of falling, I was picked up. My mom and my sister caught me and carried me into bed. And that was the last time I ever took a step. And laying in bed crying that night, I understood as clear as day that I would never walk again. And I don't know how an 8th grader understands that. I didn't have a medical degree, but somehow I knew. The other thing that I knew was that I didn't have to go through my struggles alone. That my mom, my sisters, loved ones, family, friends would catch me when I fell. And there was something immensely comforting about that. And it's that comfort that allowed me to get on with the other half of my life, which was social life. I mean, after all, I was, growing up, a teenager. I wanted to have friends. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to be out and about, be socially accepted, kiss girls and all that stuff. And so I tried to be as active as I could. And I did whatever I could, and I didn't let my wheelchair get in the way. People laugh a lot of times when I tell them that some of my funnest memories in high school and whatnot were going to dances. And it doesn't necessarily make sense, right? It doesn't add up. It's hard to connect those dots. Well, how does a guy in a wheelchair have such a good time at a school dance? Because we all know kids can be so kind. My success at school dances came down to my ability to do three things. Number one, shake. Number two, rattle. And number three, roll. So when a fast song came on, I'd shake my head to the beat of the music. And because people like to form circles and communicate a bit more during fast songs, I'd rattle off some funny comments, usually bagging on my friends for the way they danced, and just kind of be the funny guy. I'd also lip sync to the songs, which what's great is the music's so loud that you don't even have to know the words, you just move your mouth. As soon as the song ended, I knew it was time to I knew it was time to move on to the second spot, which was rattle, and I'd just get out there and just get it done, you know, a little shoulder shake, a little shimmy shimmy, a little head bob, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Never too much because you don't want to overplay it. Just enough to keep them coming back for more. And then I'd go to my third phase, third step here, which was to roll. Because you can't lip sync the whole time, you can't shake the whole time, and the rattling gets kind of tiresome. So you roll to the snack bar. You roll outside for fresh air. Heck, I even rolled to the bathroom, which my date didn't know I couldn't even use the bathroom by myself, but I wasn't going to tell her. When a slow song came on, I adjusted my interpretation of the three legs of my dancing tripod. For example, I would shake off my nerves and muster enough courage needed to boldly go where no high school student ever went. And you'll understand what I mean in a minute. I'd ask a girl to dance by rattling off some cheesy line. It's got to be cheesy but cute. That's sort of the balance, okay? If it's cheesy and cute, they'll like it. And spoken with confidence. Those were the easy parts. Where I needed mounds of courage, and probably stupidity helped here too, was in answering the question that came every time I asked a girl to dance. They would always say, sure, but how? And that's when, with false confidence, I would look them straight in the eye, and I would respond by saying, it's easy. Just sit on my lap. And though I was dying on the inside, I just thought, if you're confident enough, they'll go for it. So to the shock of every one of my friends, that line worked 100% of the time. I had friends lining up to borrow my wheelchair. So, with my dancing partner on my lap, we'd roll through the gymnasium en route to the funnest dancing experience of her life. And that, my friends, is how you make an impression. And so it was that mine was a difficult balance, whereby I had to manage the constant push and pull of my two worlds, the medical and the social or personal. Now, in thinking about my college experience, which came next, all I can say was this. After that time had passed, and after I had made it to college, I found myself 14 hours away from everything I knew that was familiar to me. I grew up in Northern California, did my undergrad at Brigham Young University, just quite a trek. So I didn't have mom around. And while college was tremendous, it was also very eye-opening. And it was eye-opening on a couple fronts. On the health front, it was eye-opening in that I got sick. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn or how to even make a doctor's appointment because I had never done any of that before. And let me tell you, as lousy as it feels to be sick, it feels even worse to not know what to do about it. So I thought back about my experiences. How did I deal with this growing up? Well, Mom did it all. So I didn't know what kind of insurance I had. I didn't know what a preferred provider was. I couldn't tell you what things like copay, in-network, and deductible were all about. That was a foreign language. I had been to a million different doctors a million different times. And yet, I had been completely excluded from my pediatric care and my adolescent care. And the result was that now that I was on my own, I had no clue regarding how to manage my health. I was completely unprepared. When I finally did stumble in to see a doctor, I was bombarded about questions regarding my medical condition. These were questions I didn't know how to answer. After all, my mom had taken care of all that. See, growing up, the doctor would ask me a question about my health, and just like you saw in the skit, he'd ask me and my mom would answer. And then he'd ask me something else and my mom would answer. And the third time he went to ask something, who did he ask? He asked my mom. And guess what? I was okay with that. Because that stuff was boring. And that stuff was lame. And I didn't really want to be there anyway. So if I could kick it on the sidelines, just relax my way through, that was A-okay in my book. So I kind of thought that I was maybe getting away with something, that I was able to slide through. In reality, I was putting myself or allowing myself to be set at a serious disadvantage. I was disabling myself. Now, having had to learn how to manage my way through the healthcare system was challenging. It's something I don't recommend anyone try doing on their own. How much better would my transition from pediatric care to adult care have been had I been included in every aspect of my healthcare management instead of being allowed to just, like I said, sit on the sidelines? Nobody meant to put me at a disadvantage. But by protecting me perhaps too much, I was never expected to be medically independent. And certainly, that did place me at a disadvantage. Not too long after I got over my healthcare experience, I had another eye-opening experience while at college. This one was on the social side. Now, I'll introduce it by saying that integral to any college experience is the opportunity to join certain college traditions, right? You want to wear blue at sporting events. Well, I did. I guess you guys will wear something else here. But I learned the school fight song. I ate the university's famed mint brownie. But there's one tradition I knew I was going to miss out on, and that was hiking the Y. What that is, BYU is nestled right at the base of the Mount Timpanogos Mountains. If you've never seen the Mount Timpanogos Mountains, then you've never seen a real mountain. Because what I thought were mountains growing up were actually molehills compared to Mount Timpanogos. And back in the day, some people thought it would be cool, senior class thought it would be cool to put the year that they graduated in big block letters up on the side of the mountain. And so they hiked up there and did it. Not to be outdone, the following year, a group of seniors went up, did the same thing. And it went on and on and on until the university said, hold on, we're going to have a mountain full of numbers here. Let's just take them all down and we'll put up a single unifying letter. a symbol for all of us to rally around. So they put a big Y on the mountain, and it's huge. It's about 400 feet, and you can see it from an airplane. And so the students at BYU all hike the Y, and the alumni do it too. But it's something that, understanding that Mother Nature didn't really create mountains with accessibility in mind, I figured I'd never be able to do. I mentioned to a friend who had just come back from the Y how awesome I thought that would be to go up there, and I asked him to show me some photos later. We didn't talk about it anymore, but about a week or so later, he came into my room and he was all pumped up. "V, you got to dress warm on Saturday." And I said, "Why?" "We're going out, man. Just dress warm." And I said, "Saturday's my birthday." "Yeah, I know." "Yeah, but shouldn't I know what I'm doing on my birthday?" "Dude, just dress warm." So, okay, man. So Saturday came around and I did. And then he said, "Oh yeah, one more thing. Get in your manual wheelchair." And then I was confused, really confused. I did, and at the appointed hour, I went to the downstairs lobby where I was met by John, and to my surprise, 20 of my closest friends. "We're hiking the Y today, V. We're taking you up." And I was touched and excited and completely freaked out all at the same time. Seeing how happy they all were to take me up, I recognized how special the moment was. And I acknowledged that at a time when we think young adults are all about themselves, was reminded how good the youth of today are, how impressive those individuals are. I didn't have a seat belt on my manual chair, so they all went and got their old neckties and strapped me into my chair with these neckties. And I thought, yeah, that seems official. That should work. Sure, that's ADA compliant. So we drove to the bottom of the mountain, and the closer we got, the bigger that mountain got, and the more afraid I became. Hoisted me out, and they began lifting me, carrying me up, Pharaoh style. I had 2 people in front, 2 people on each side, 2 people in the back, and 1 person holding my head. And there's 2 ways that you can make it up the Y. They've got 12 switchbacks, which is the route that the alumni take, or you can go straight up in a single shot, which is the route all the students take. Now, we were crazy, but not completely stupid, so we decided, let's go with the switchbacks. And we decided that once we got to the end of each switchback, we would switch who was on lifting duty, take a little rest, and continue our trek. That was fine for about the first 2. When we hit the 3rd switchback, I hear, "Hey, maybe we want to like stop in between the switchbacks too." By the time we hit the 6th, I heard, maybe just like quarter intervals, and so it was a process. It was pretty cold. My birthday's in November. These guys got hotter and hotter because they were working like dogs, and they started taking their coats off. Nowhere to put it, they just set it on my lap. So eventually I had coats all the way up to my chin, which for me was great because I wasn't generating any body heat and I was getting cold. So we got up and we reached the base of the Y. And I remember just thinking how amazing this was. And then I heard the guys talking and they said, "We didn't come this far for Vance to be at the base. We're going to the top." And they dug deep and with a collective effort lifted one more time and carried me to the very top of the Y. And that's when I'd be able to view that was more spectacular than anything I've ever seen. Words can't describe how amazing that was. And unable to contain my emotions, I started to cry. And that's when they all sung Happy Birthday. And I felt like every birthday wish I had ever made came true at the same time. And so I was growing on both fronts. Socially, I was developing, I was growing, I was having tremendous experiences, and medically, I was becoming more independent, more empowered, more in charge of my own life. Now, throughout the years, different medical challenges have come and gone. I don't know how many surgeries I've had since we've been married, babe, but it's been enough that Casey knows her way around a hospital. The gurneys still aren't comfortable, which, come on, technology's got to catch up at some point. But today I don't mess around when it comes to my health. I ask questions about my treatment, about the logistics associated with leveraging the medical resources that I need to maintain my health. Now my health isn't just about me. It's about my amazing wife. It's about our amazing children, whom I love dearly, even though I've been gone just one day, miss. I want to feel good. I want to be strong. I want to be well enough to provide for them. And so it is that I go to the Kennedy Krieger Institute in Baltimore every couple months, and I get poked and prodded and see cardiologists and neurologists and pulmonologists and lots of different ologists to ensure that I can keep on keeping on. So in closing here, why am I sharing all of this with you today? Why am I talking about gallons of milk and former bonehead doctors and climbing mountains? I guess it's because I'm hoping you'll take something away. And that's a deepened commitment, because I know the commitment's already there, but a deepened commitment to the partnership of our collective well-being and of our collective health and emotional growth. If you are a parent of a child who is ill or disabled, love your kids, take care of them, protect them, but do not put them at a disadvantage by not forcing them to step outside themselves and learn to manage their own health. You think perhaps they cannot handle it, it being the realities of their situation, diagnosis, prognosis, or mounds of paperwork associated with it. But remember this, they're already living with the disease. They're already dealing with it. They can handle it. Just empower them to do so. To any physicians or social workers, then the sound of my voice, I would encourage you to remember that your duties and responsibilities far exceed diagnosis and treatment. Yours is the awesome privilege of helping kids grow into adulthood, to make certain that every medical avenue is explored in order to usher them into the next phase of their life. But if you do not teach them about their disease, if you don't encourage them to achieve, and if you don't, frankly, manage mom and dad, you will have stopped short of enabling them to live the fullest and happiest life which they deserve. And finally, to anybody that falls into the patient category, let me say this. I applaud you. Yours is an internal strength and resilience that few, will ever be forced to understand or have. Because of your circumstances, you have the opportunity to live your life with the courage and optimism that will inspire those around you. But as difficult as your row may be to hoe, you cannot allow yourself the luxury of being ignorant about your disease, how it impacts your body, or how to manage it. Asking questions may be uncomfortable. Learning about the science may be tedious. And discovering how to work your way through the healthcare system is going to be onerous. Lean on your parents for support. Lean on your social workers for support. Lean on your doctors for support. They are all here, but make no mistake about it. You are the captain of your ship. It is your life, not theirs. And you are to be a leader in your own life. The last thing I'll say is that I'll put it in the words that Frost used when he wrote The Road Not Taken. He said, "Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. Then sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. Never before have the benefit and value of facilitating the successful transition from pediatric care to adult care been understood and appreciated to the extent to which they are now. Pioneers like Al and others are making sure that that continues to roll forward and grow. And if we care for our patients, if we love our children, and if we want to better ourselves, we will recommit right here and now to make sure that those transitions happen successfully. Indeed, our friends, ours is the road less traveled. And that is why it will make all the difference. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.